पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्ससुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजलां गान्धारनीलोत्पलां शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुलाम्। अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरां दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णाः खलु पाण्डवैर्नदी कैवर्तकः केशवः। पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थघण्टोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितम्। लोके सज्जनषट्पदैरहरहः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद्भारतपङ्कजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसिनः श्रेयसे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं विदुःसुरासुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः। ओम कृष्णाय परमात्मने नमः। ओम अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। चिन्मयं व्याप्यत् सर्वं त्रैलोक्यं च चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। सर्वश्रुतिशिरोरत्नविराजितपदाम्बुजः वेदान्ताम्बुजसूर्यो यः तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। चैतन्यशाश्वतशान्तो व्योमातीतो निरञ्जनः बिन्दुनादकलातीतः तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ज्ञानशक्तिसमारूढः तत्त्वमाला विभूषितः भुक्तिमुक्तिप्रदाता च तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अनेकजन्मसम्प्राप्त कर्मबन्धविदाहिने आत्मज्ञानप्रदानेन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। शोषणं भवसिन्धोश्च ज्ञापनं सारसम्पतः गुरोः पादोदकं सम्यक् तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। न गुरोरधिकं तत्त्वं न गुरोरधिकं तपः तत्त्वज्ञानात् परं नास्ति तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। मन्नाथः श्रीजगन्नाथः मद्गुरोः श्रीजगद्गुरोः मदात्मा सर्वभूतात्मा तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरुरादिरणादिश्च गुरुः परमदैवतं गुरोः परतरं नास्ति तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव Tvameva sarvam mama deva deva. Yat satpena jagat satyam, yat prakasena bhadiyat, yat anandena nandanti, tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Namah Pranavartaya Shuddha Jnanaika Murtaye Nirmalaya Prasantaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva, tvameva bandhuscha sakha tvameva, tvameva vidya dravinam tvameva, tvameva sarvam mama deva deva. Shri Dakshina Murti Sudeshikendram Dvaipayanam Sutrakratam Munindram Sri Shankaram Bhashyakritam Yatindram Maddeshi Kanchapi Namami Vityai. Om Namo Brahma Dibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartribhyo Vamsa Rishibhyo Mahatbhyo Namo Gurubhyah Sarvopaplavarahita Prajnana Ganaha Pratyakarto Brahmaivaham Asmi. Pranams everyone. We had completed the 5th chapter. We had given us we had concluded the summary of the 5th chapter also. Now we have to start on the 6th chapter. 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is called as Dhyana Yoga or Ātma-jñāna Yoga. We will call it as Dhyana Yoga. And in this chapter, Bhagavan clearly explains the sadhana of Dhyana, meditation. Dhyana is explained in detail. Now, before we actually start on this chapter, we will do a vichara on Dhyana. And this will take a couple of classes, at least a few classes, maybe about 4 to 5 classes. We will see certain topics as an introduction so that when we actually go to the sloka, it becomes easy for us to understand it. First of all, what is Dhyana? Dhyana is a sadhana. And the sadhana is performed through the mind. It is done through the mind. So, Dhyana can be called as mānasa-vyāpāraḥ, a mental activity. And the next question is Dhyana, why must it be done? Why must Dhyana be done? And how is it connected to Vedānta? Because the purpose of our all these classes, the purpose for us to know about Vedānta is for us to come out of saṁsāra. So, question is, I want to come out of saṁsāra. How and where does Dhyana fit in here? Because if I want to come out of saṁsāra, first I have to understand what is the root cause of saṁsāra. We already have seen that multiple times, especially in the 1st and 2nd chapter. The root cause of saṁsāra is ignorance. That clarity we should have at all times. That all the sorrow that I am facing in my life, everything that I am actually going through as depression, sadness, the problems that I see in the world, the underlying root cause is ignorance. Ignorance is the root cause of saṁsāra, all our sorrows. So we experience sorrow because of saṁsāra, and saṁsāra's root cause is ignorance. This we have to be very clear. What is saṁsāra? Sorrow, mānasa-vyāpāraḥ, the pain that sometimes we have in our mind is saṁsāra. And that mānasa-vyāpāraḥ, it actually manifests in different forms. It manifests in the form of insecurity, it manifests in the form of fear, it manifests in the form of anger, it manifests in the form of desire. So, in other words, what all these come because of the discontentment that we feel in our mind. So, saṁsāra can also be called as discontentment. If somebody asks us, how are you? Maybe first time because we are meeting for the first time, or as just for the sake of formality or habit, we'll say, yeah, we are fine. But actually speaking, are we able to say that I am contented, I am happy? Am I able to say that at all times? Sometimes we are happy because perhaps at that moment we received some happy news, and or we are with a person that we like, or we are in a place that we are comfortable, but we are not able to say that I am happy at all times, because sooner or later, probably much sooner, we will be feeling that I am lacking this again. I need this in my life. Something is lacking. Either I am not in the right place, or I am not doing the right things, or I am not able to achieve certain things. I am lacking. This is known as alpata. The alpata means there is an inner insufficiency. This alpata is samsara. The general feeling that I am not there yet is samsara. And we have clearly seen in the second chapter and earlier how we have said that to come out of samsara, one must come out of ignorance. The step seems very simple. To say that I need to come out of ignorance, that is very simple. But the problem for us is, or the problem for majority of the world is, they don't even see the link between samsara and ignorance for the first. It's not evident for them. Even for people like us, whom we have been able to recognize this link, we are not able to remember this at all times. We are not able to recognize this at all times. So to be able to recognize, to be able to understand that samsara is the problem, not the world, not my spouse, not my children, not my in-laws, not my boss, not my neighbors, not my friends, that the root cause of all the sorrows are the cause for all my sorrows are samsara, and the root cause of the samsara is the ignorance. That has to be in our mind at all times. So the first step is to clearly understand ignorance is the cause of my sorrow. Luckily for us, we have been able to come to this step. For many people in this world, they are not even aware. So that is why we say this Śāstra is Raja Gohyam. It's a divine secret. It's only known to some people. Whereas for the rest, they wrongly conclude that there are many methods to remove the sorrow. And majority of their methods are about changing others, changing the situation, changing the environment, changing the house, changing the job, so on and so forth. It can give temporary reliefs, but not permanent. And you may actually barter it for some other sorrow. You may get away from one sorrow, but you will get into another sorrow. So the first step is ignorance is the cause of sorrow. The second step that we have to understand here is, if I am very clear that ignorance is the cause of my sorrow, then only knowledge can remove ignorance. Only light can remove darkness. Darkness can be removed only by light. Similarly, ajñāna can be removed only by jnana. There is no other method. And this also is another secret. Because why we say is a secret? Because not many people, although many people may have come to the first step, that samsara is the cause of sorrow, that is actually step 0. That itself many people may not have come to. Then step 1 is ignorance is the root cause of samsara. Then the third step is the step 2, step 0, step 1, step 2 is to say only jnana can remove ajnana. People might say, ignorance, but there are other ways to remove it. And they may still go on trying to change the world or do other sadhanas other than jnana. But Śāstra say, even if you spend an entire lifetime to understand that samsara is the cause for sorrow, ignorance is the root cause of sorrow, and only jnana can remove ajnana, it is okay. Even if you spend an entire lifetime to come to this position, for that matter, to understand and internalize each of these truths, even if you spend an entire lifetime to be convinced about each of these truths, so every truth requires one lifetime, it's still fine. We are still progressing there. It is worth that life. We have made that life worth it. So step 2 is basically only knowledge can remove ignorance. Now, once we come to this knowledge, the question is, how can I get this knowledge? Jnana can come only through a pramāṇa. Pramāṇa means means of knowledge. Jnana can only come through some means of knowledge. For example, if I want to know the color or if I want to know the form, only my eyes are the pramāṇa. If I want to know about the sound or what music I am hearing, only my ears can be my pramāṇa. I cannot look at the speaker and say what is a song. I cannot use my eyes to sort of decide or to recognize the song that is being played. Similarly, I cannot use my ears to understand what is the color or the form. For every knowledge that we seek in this world, there has to be a pramāṇa. So the ignorance that we are talking about, the self-ignorance, the Ātma-jñāna that we have, for us to overcome that we need Ātma-jñāna, self-knowledge. So self-knowledge, where can I get that self-knowledge? The self-knowledge, so first thing I have to understand it can only come through pramāṇa. As in, I need a means of knowledge. Yeah. Why do I say that? Knowledge cannot come on its own. It has to be through a means of knowledge. So next is, now if I am coming to this self-knowledge, what is the means of knowledge? It's the next question. The means of knowledge for self-knowledge, Ātma-jñāna, the pramāṇa is Śāstra. Śāstram is the pramāṇa for self-knowledge. The Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, they are the pramāṇas. I cannot. So knowledge, if I say knowledge is where I can get my ignorance removed, I cannot use my physics books, chemistry books, history books to get rid of my ignorance about Ātma-jñāna, to remove my ignorance of Atma. I have to use or I have to rely on Śāstras, which is basically Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads. And once I get this knowledge, I am free from samsara. I am liberated. So if I look at it, The root cause of all my sorrows are samsara. Ignorance is the root cause of samsara. Or rather, all my sorrows are because of samsara. The samsara's root cause is ignorance. Ignorance about self. And only knowledge can remove ignorance. And for knowledge, one requires pramāṇa. And the pramāṇa can only be Śāstra. So this we have established that link now. Now, having established this link, the question that comes into our mind is, where does Dhyana fit in here? Where does meditation fit in all these things? If only Śāstra is the pramāṇa, then what is the role of Dhyana in this journey of moksha? That will be the question. But Dhyana is being spoken very highly in our scriptures. So the question is, where does Dhyana fit in? But before we say where does Dhyana fit in, we should understand in this link that we have established now, where does Dhyana not fit in? Dhyana cannot give jnana. Dhyana cannot be a sadhana for gaining knowledge. In other words, what we are saying is, Dhyana is not a pramāṇa. Dhyana is not a means of knowledge. Dhyana cannot remove my ignorance. I cannot simply go into meditation to remove my self-ignorance. I cannot go into meditation and say, I am meditated and therefore I am doing meditation and therefore I am liberated now. For getting liberated, one must have knowledge. Knowledge cannot arise out of Dhyana. That we must be very clear. It is like this: if I am holding this object in my hand and I say, can you tell me what color is this? You cannot go into meditation and say, by meditation I am able to see that, I am able to recognize that the object in your color is white. One cannot do that. One needs to, only the eyes can give this knowledge. Dhyana cannot give the color or nature or form of the object. So we must be very clear. Dhyana is a sadhana, no doubt about it. And it is a sadhana in our path of moksha. Yes, we also recognize it, we also understand it. But it is not for gaining knowledge. So we'll have to be clear. Dhyana cannot give us knowledge. To get knowledge, we should use the right instrument. And only when through knowledge the ignorance is removed. And only when the ignorance is removed, we attain moksha. This concept, these truths, that must be deeply ingrained in our mind. It should be deep-seated in our mind at all times. We have listened the Shastras through the sampradaya. And therefore this must be, even if somebody is woken up from their sleep and be asked this question, they should be clear. If you are asked what is the rule, what is the cause of sorrow? Cause of sorrow is saṁsāra. That we should be clear. Root cause of samsara is ignorance. Ignorance can only be removed by knowledge. Knowledge requires pramāṇa. Shastras are the only pramāṇa for Ātma-jñāna. That will have to be very clear. This flow, this concept has to be very clear. So now that we have established that knowledge can remove ignorance, and by studying through Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads we are able to remove this ignorance, then the question is, I have been studying for so many years now Bhagavad Gita, but still I am not able to feel that I am actually out of samsara. Why is that so? That is because a person, even if he is having the right pramāṇa and he is able to study that knowledge, the problem arises if he is not qualified, he will not gain that knowledge. So qualification is another necessary condition for gaining that knowledge. So in other words, even if the pramāṇa, the Śāstra is there, the Guru is there, the teachings are given, unless the student is qualified, knowledge will not arise in the mind of the student. It is like someone who has no schooling, who has not gone to the school at all. If we suddenly put that person in a university class, the teacher is teaching exceptionally well, the subject that is taught is perfect, correct. The student also has the ears and eyes functioning very well. But if still the student is not able to understand, that's because the student is not qualified enough to sit in that class. Similarly, even if our eyes and sense organs are all working perfectly fine, even if the Guru is teaching the subject correctly, we are sitting in the right class, will we be able to get that knowledge? Not necessarily. We would be able to gather some new words, but not knowledge. The pramāta, the student, has been able to use the pramāṇa, which is the Śāstras, and the knowledge itself, prama itself, is correctly taught. But then unless the student has prepared, unless the student is qualified, unless the student has been schooled from, say, kindergarten to the 12th standard, that person will not be able to get any knowledge. So it is important to know that pramāṇa cannot always give knowledge. Just because we have used the right pramāṇa doesn't mean we'll get the knowledge. Only if the pramāta has the qualification, the pramāṇa will be able to do its job. So in the case of Vedānta, in the case of Ātma-jñāna, if we have to listen to if we are listening to Vedānta, and if we are looking to get the Vedānta to be able to make a difference, or for us to actually be able to gain moksha, we must have adhikaratvam. Adhikaritvam means qualifications. Adhikaritvam, what are the what are the different qualifications that we need? We have already seen that. Without qualifications, if the student listens to Śāstras, the Śāstras will not give any knowledge. But if we can still listen, it will remain as words, or we may even be able to understand, but it is a third party knowledge, as if we are talking about somebody else. When Śāstra says Atma, he said there is just as there is book, sun, moon, earth, stars, there is something called Atma. That is how we will be able to relate. So one of the So that is where this Dhyana comes in. Because one of the benefits of Dhyana, I'm saying one of the benefits, not the only benefit. One of the benefits of Dhyana as a sadhana is to give one of the qualifications that is required to acquire Ātma-jñāna or Brahma-jñāna. So Dhyana can give multiple benefits. One of the benefits is one of the qualifications. Again, it doesn't give you just by doing Dhyana, one will not be able to get all the qualifications that are needed for Ātma-jñāna also. So without Dhyana as a sadhana, even if you have a Śāstra, even if you have access to Śāstras, even if you have the right Guru, we may not get the Jnana. So Dhyana is as important as Vedānta Shravanam. Vedānta Shravanam is as important as Dhyana. And not just Dhyana, as I said, there are other sadhanas also that are needed for us to get all the required qualifications that is needed for us to acquire Ātma-jñāna. So Dhyana is for acquiring one of the qualifications. So Dhyana, before we go into that qualification bit, now we'll see what is the role of Dhyana other than this. So there are actually, this is one of the functions that we talked about. One of the functions of Dhyana is to get one of the qualifications needed for Ātma-jñāna. This is in fact the first and most important role of Dhyana. It helps us to become qualified, so that when we listen to Vedānta, the words that are spoken by the Guru, they turn into knowledge in our intellect, in our mind, in our personality. So this type of Dhyana, this type of meditation, this Dhyana is done, which is done before Shravana. Remember, this is a qualification that we have to acquire before Vedānta Shravana. So this Dhyana that is done before this Vedānta Shravana is called Upasana. So this is one function of Dhyana, or one type of Dhyana, which is Upasana. Now Dhyana also helps in removing certain habitual tendencies that a seeker might have after that seeker has received Jnana. In other words, somebody does Upasana, he gets qualified, he does other sadhanas, he is fully qualified, then he does Vedānta Shravanam, he is able to get that Jnana now. Now he is able to understand, he is able to now for him to be able to get to that next stage, which is to remove the habitual tendencies and internalize this knowledge completely, to gain complete clarity around what Vedānta says. What does Vedānta say? 3 things. Brahma Satyam, Brahmaiva Satyam, Brahmaeva Satyam. Only Brahman is Satyam. Jagat Mithya, the whole universe, including everything around me, including my body and mind, are all Mithya. They are fleeting, they are not real. Then Jiva Ishvara na Paraha. There is no difference between me and Ishvara at a paramarthika level. When I can say that Jiva Ishvara na Paraha, when I am owning up to Brahman Atma. Aham Brahmasmi. When I say Aham Brahmasmi, when I say Aham Balaji, I am not. When I am able to say Aham Brahmasmi, then Jiva Ishvara Naparaha. But when for a seeker, even after getting this knowledge, there would be times when some old emotional patterns surface. And that is because of certain deep past impressions, vasanas. And the vasanas could come in the form of desire, anger, jealousy, fear. They may still have it. For who? For a person who has qualified, for a person who has done Vedānta Shravana, for a person who has done Manana also, clarified the doubts also. And the person is able to, he is considered a jnani, but he is not a jnana nishta yet. Why? Because some of the habitual tendencies come out. Remember, the habitual tendencies are so deep rooted that even a jnani might have it until the jnani gets jnana nishta. After jnana, ideally they should drop. But due to old habits, viparita bhavana we say, they may appear. It is not that it will appear as frequent as what we have in our lives. For them it will be very rare. Very, very rare. But it will be there. Very rare. So we cannot say compare. So even after there we will get it. So why can't we have it even now? Even if a jnani might have these fear, anger, jealousy, what is there to actually struggle to get to that stage? Now that should not be the approach. What they have been able to do is actually minimize it to that the anger or the jealousy or the fear that they may get is very extremely rare, but even to eradicate that fully, a certain type of dhyana helps. A certain type of dhyana helps to remove these leftover habits. That dhyana is called as nididhyasana. Nididhyasana. So there are two types of dhyana. Upasana. Upasana is a dhyana that is done before Shravana. That dhyana helps us to prepare the mind. It creates adhikaritvam. Adhikaritvam means qualifications. That is upasana. Then the second type of dhyana is nididhyasana. Nididhyasana is a dhyana that is done after Shravana. It helps to convert the jnana into jnana nishta. It helps to remove the viparita bhavana. Both are dhyana. But the purpose is different. So if we say, if in future classes, if I say upasana, it means dhyana that is done before Shravana. If I say nididhyasana, you should immediately recognize this as dhyana that is done after Vedānta Shravana. Sometimes I might say dhyana. It depends on the sloka. Certain slokas, most of the slokas are about nididhyasana. But we might also touch upon upasanas also. So at that point of time, when I say dhyana, it refers to either upasana or nididhyasana depending on the context of the sloka. Okay, so upasana, nididhyasana. Now, we will do a small vichara on upasana dhyana. Upasana dhyana, how many types of upasana dhyana are there? Then we will also do a vichara on nididhyasana dhyana, and then we will try to compare what are the similarities between upasana, nididhyasana, how do they differ. We will do a comparison later. But before we even do understand what are the different types of upasana, what are the different types of nididhyasana, or how can nididhyasana be performed, even before we go there, there are certain misconceptions, not exactly misconceptions, but there are certain things that we should not use dhyana for. We have already seen one. For example, we said dhyana cannot be used for gaining knowledge. I cannot go into a meditation and expect myself to get some new knowledge out of nothing. That is not possible. But there are certain things that dhyana is capable of giving. We should all, as a seeker, as a spiritual seeker, as a sādhaka, we should be very careful in not seeking these benefits that the dhyana can potentially give. Dhyana means what? Mānasa-vyāpāraḥ. By doing this meditation, by doing this dhyana, there are certain things that we can get. But as a spiritual seeker, we should not be looking for that, or we should not be showing interest in that, or we should not be performing dhyana for the sake of attaining those things. What are they? Anyway, knowledge is out of question because dhyana will not give us knowledge. So sitting for meditation or doing dhyana for the sake of meditation, for the sake of gaining knowledge, is foolishness. So that we should not do. But then dhyana can give us certain unique experiences, certain mystic experiences. Those experiences may come. But we should not be meditating, we should not be doing dhyana for such experiences. If it comes, let it come. We will see what later on how to handle them, but if it comes, let it come. What we say as spiritual seekers, we say that those experiences have no use for moksha, for getting out of samsara. Those mystic experiences do not help us, and therefore we should not be hung up on that. So first thing, seeking mystic or unique experience we should not do. We should not use dhyana for this. The second thing that we should not be using dhyana for is seeking siddhis. See, if a person does dhyana for long periods of time, there is a possibility that we could get some siddhis through dhyana. The Śāstra, our Śāstra mentions Ashtamaha siddhis. There are 8 different types of siddhis that one can get. It's called as anima, mahima, lagima, garima, prapti, prakamya, ishitva, vashitva. 8 of them. Anima means the ability to become small, even as small as an atom. I can tell you these things are real, these things are possible. All these Ashtamaha siddhis. I know people who have been able to do that. For example, both Kanchi Mahapariva as well as Sivan Sir, I know for sure they have been able to do these things. Anima is basically the ability to, these are all yogic powers, but they have not misused it and they have not gone seeking for it. But whether we will have it, when you do dhyana for long periods of time, you will get it. Anima means ability to become infinitely small, even as small as an atom. Then Mahima means the ability to become infinitely large, expanding the body. Then Lagima. Lagima means become weightless, extremely light. There have been instances when Kanchi Mahaprabhu has asked somebody to lift the palanquin and they felt as if it was extremely light. Nothing there. And they say, and then Garima, the ability to become extremely heavy, immovably dense. That has also happened. So Anima, Mahima, Lagima, Garima, then Prapti. Prapti means the ability to obtain anything desired or to reach any place. Sitting from here, I want to reach that place, I can go there. Teleportation. Or being in multiple places at the same time. That is called as Prapti. Then Prakamya. Prakamya means, again here also, ability to fulfill any desire or being able to experience anything anywhere. Sitting from here, I am able to experience the chillness in Kailash. So that is possible. That is called as Prakamya. Then Ishitva. Ishitva means supremacy, the lordship, the power to rule over natural forces. So I want rain, rain will come. I want a breeze, breeze will come. That the natural forces, you can have mastery over that. You can actually rule over them. That is called as Ishitva. Then Vashitva. Vashitva means controlling the elements, controlling objects. I can make the objects move from this place to another place. I can read another person's mind. I can tell them what is in their mind. That is called as Vashitva. I can actually make them do what I want them to do. That is called as Vashitva. So these are all 8 Ashtamaha-siddhis. Anima, Mahima, Lagima, Garima, Prapti, Prakamya, Ishitva, Vashitva. They can arise through Dhyana. But what we have to understand is they are obstacles to moksha. If moksha is our goal, if we are actually focusing ourselves on these Ashtamaha-siddhis, we will lose the real purpose. And not only that, we can weaken our vairagya. It will lead to our downfall. You know that many of the Asuras, they have been able to get this. They have been able to get these Ashtamaha-siddhis. But they have been hung up on them, they have been looking only on them, and therefore they did not get moksha. And they have, that weakens the vairagya, because you desire, your desire increases and you lose control of yourself. These siddhis are true. We can find out what is in the other person's mind. We can see what is happening in the future. We can see what has happened in the past. We can understand what is happening in other place right now. We can attain all these powers through Dhyana. But we should not perform dhyana for this purpose. If we perform dhyana for this purpose, remember, dhyana is also a double-edged sword. We will perish because of these things. When we say perish, not necessarily death, but spiritually we will have a big downfall. We will go to minus. Whatever we had actually built as part of our spiritual sadhanas would all go for our waste. We just need to look at history as to see how the various asuras had used this dhyana and it has resulted in their destruction. Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, Hiranyaksha, so many examples are there. So, dhyana should never be performed for acquiring powers. These kind of powers could corrupt a person, and it will inside the person. If the person, we said already, even for a jnani there are some vasanas that may come out at times. At this stage when we are talking about dhyana, we haven't even got moksha, we haven't even got jnana. So at this time our tendencies are still there. So with these tendencies and with this power, we will confirm do papa karmas. So we should not look for these powers through dhyana. So why should we perform dhyana? To become qualified. That is the mukhya pala. That is the main benefit. Now apart from these, whatever we mentioned, which is basically the Ashtamaha Siddhis or mystic or unique experiences, dhyana can also give certain other byproducts. Like for example, if you do meditation for a long time, you will get good health. The digestive system will work better. We will have better hunger. We will have proper functioning of internal systems. We will be able to sleep better by performing dhyana. We will be able to take decisions clearly. We will be able to have clarity in mind, clarity in thoughts. Those are all also byproducts of doing dhyana. They are fine. We are not saying no to them. We are not pushing them away. But that shouldn't be our goal. We shouldn't say do dhyana so that you sleep better. Do dhyana so that you get good hunger. Do dhyana so that you are able to have clarity in your thoughts and be able to take right decisions. The purpose of a spiritual seeker, the purpose of dhyana for a spiritual seeker is to prepare the self for jnana. That should be the goal. If we let go of the goal, we may get clarity, we may not get clarity, but we'll definitely not get the required qualification for jnana. But whereas if we focus only on getting the required qualification for jnana, these byproducts will automatically come. Even if we say no, it will automatically come. Even if we do not focus on them, it will automatically come. So our focus should remain on preparing for jnana. Okay. Now, upasana, mānasa-vyāpāraḥ, mental activity, upasana, dhyana, whatever I said is now all dhyana or upasana is the same, because we are talking about before getting knowledge. Now, this upasana, we said it is to get a qualification. What sort of qualification we will get by doing upasana? So the qualification has to be related to the mind. Because why? Dhyana or upasana is a mānasa-vyāpāraḥ, mental activity. So it has to do something with the mind. And therefore the qualification will also be something that is related to mind. Now, with regards to the mind, our mind has many weaknesses. Many. If there has been only one weakness, then it would be simple. We need to perform only one sadhana, remove it and go it. But then mind has got multiple weaknesses. And Dhyana also must be approached in various types to remove each of these weaknesses. And therefore, this Dhyana or this Upasana, they can be classified into 4 types. And only by doing all these 4 types, we can say the mind is qualified for jnana. What are the 4 types of dhyana? What are the 4 different things that these 4 types can overcome? The 4 weaknesses that these dhyanas will be able to overcome, we will see them in the next class. Any questions or comments so far? Okay. Yeah. Bhagavan Hanuman is also another person who has been able to get all these Ashtasiddhis. I am talking about some contemporary people whom we have been able to see. And I typically try to avoid using the word Lord. I will say Bhagavan or Ishvara. Okay.
The last 2 siddhis, what are the?
Ishitva and Vashitva.
Sorry, come again?
Ishitva and Vashitva. Vashitva.
Okay. They're just for general knowledge. Okay.
There are no more questions, then we will close this class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.